Part 4. The Nomadic Kit Extended. By the mid-1970s, the surfer had developed a visual language that spoke of far-off horizons and a total refusal of the 9-to-5, suit-and-tie reality. To the outside world, it looked like a mess of sun-faded fabric and rusted metal. To the surfer, it was a highly specialized survival kit. Every item, from the shoes on their feet to the car in the lot, was a tool designed to facilitate one thing: being in the right place when the swell arrived. This is the anatomy of the nomadic surfer. The Chariots, from the Woody to the breadloaf. First, let's talk about the vessels. In the early days, it was the Woody, the old Ford and Chevy station wagons with wooden panels. By the 70s, these were relics, beautiful but rotted. They were replaced by the suburban tank and, most importantly, the Volkswagen Type 2. The VW bus, or the Combi, wasn't just a van, it was a cathedral of the counterculture. It was slow, it was loud, and it smelled of unwashed towels and cheap gasoline. But it offered the ultimate luxury: the bed on wheels. You didn't need a hotel. You didn't even need a tent. You parked on the cliff at San Onofre, cooked beans on a single burner stove, and watched the moon rise over the Pacific through the back window. But there was also the surf break, the heavy American station wagons, massive, gas-guzzling beasts like the Pontiac Safari or the Chevy Kingswood. You could fit 6 boards on the roof and 4 sleeping bodies in the back. These cars were the iron horses of the coast, built for the long haul from the suburbs of LA to the point breaks of Baja. The footwear, from the waffle to the wool. A surfer's relationship with shoes has always been complicated because the goal is to be barefoot. When shoes were necessary, they had to be easy to ditch. Enter the rainbow sandal and the classic flip-flop. The thong sandal was the primary mode of transport. It was a simple slab of rubber or leather held on by a strap. It left your feet exposed to the sun and ready for the water. The sound of a parking lot in 1976 was the collective slap, slap, slap of 100 rubber soles hitting the asphalt. But then came the technical footwear. In California, Vans took over the streets. The Authentic and the Slip-On featured the Waffle Sole, a sticky, vulcanized rubber that gripped the deck of a skateboard or the pedals of a van like glue. And then the Australian export that changed winter forever, the UGG. In the 70s, UGGs weren't fashion, they were premeditation. They were made by Australian surfers who needed to thaw out their feet after sessions in the freezing Victorian swells. It was raw sheepskin, inside out, crude, ugly, and incredibly warm. When an Australian surfer named Brian Smith brought them to Malibu in 1978, the locals laughed, until they put them on. It was like stepping into a warm cloud after being in a liquid ice bath. They became the secret weapon of the Dawn Patrol. The wardrobe, tropical dreams and rugged reality. On the torso, the 70s surfer wore their aspirations. The Aloha shirt, or the Hawaiian shirt, was the ceremonial dress of the tribe. But in the 70s, the bright, neon-colored prints of the 50s gave way to more earthy or reverse print designs. These were faded florals that looked like they'd been bleached by 3 years of salt air. They represented the dream of the North Shore, the pilgrimage every surfer hoped to make to Oahu. When the sun went down, the heat was kept in by the Baja hoodie or the Mexican blanket poncho. These were coarse, heavy, and smelled like wood smoke. They were the armor of the campfire. And we can't forget the evolution of the board short. We've talked about the brands, but look at the length. In the mid-70s, shorts were getting shorter, designed for maximum leg movement. But as the decade closed, we saw the beginning of the longer trend, shorts that offered more protection against the wax on the board. It was a constant tug-of-war between the short, athletic look and the more relaxed, slacker fit that would eventually define the 80s and 90s. The totems, everything has a purpose. Even the accessories were icons. The aviator sunglasses, the puka shell necklaces, which were the digital ID of the 70s surfer, and the Yeti-style coolers, which back then were just heavy-duty igloos, filled with cheap beer and sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. Every piece of the nomadic kit was a badge of honor. To have a van with a lightning bolt sticker, a pair of salt-crusted Vans on the floorboards, and a faded Hawaiian shirt hanging from the rearview mirror was to be a citizen of a country that had no borders. It was a culture entirely turned toward the sea, using the discarded items of the land to build a life on the edge of the world.